Hey guys, Urban Combat Survivor here. Um, this video is kind of a different tack, a different subject than I've really been talking about a lot, and it's something that I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video about it or not. It's something my brother and I have discussed a lot of times, and so I figured I'll make a video. I'll throw it out there and let you guys chew it over and have your own thoughts about it and maybe start a discussion about it. I don't know. Um, what prompted me really was I put in my favorites a while back a series that was done by Shall Not Be Infringed called The Pilot Boat Can Do. Um, and that falls right into the framework of what I talked about so many times with my brother. Uh, it used to be that knowledge was passed around, passed down from generation to generation. Um, because there weren't any schools. There weren't institutional learning facilities. So, knowledge, information, wisdom was passed down from generation to generation through stories, songs, poems, and we talk about all the time how these things are. I mean, who remembers them? They kind of petered out, all those old kind of folk stories and folk songs, and even sayings. I was surprised at how many people never heard the saying, "A lock is there to keep an honest man honest." There are a lot of sayings like that. That it's a lifetime of wisdom that's been packaged up in a neat little saying that you can pass along an entire understanding of something with that saying. You know. And anyone who doesn't understand the saying, "A lock is there to keep an honest man honest," will either think about it or they'll ask about it, and then you can have the conversation. So then they have that wisdom as well. And right now, I mean, everything is learned in schools. And the schools, they don't teach those old stories for a lot of reasons. If you watch the video response I made the other day, I think one of the big reasons those old stories aren't told anymore, and why most of them are now considered politically incorrect, is that they teach morals that are American morals, and that doesn't follow the agenda. So they're kind of shuffled off, or they're hijacked, like the Robin Hood story that I mentioned was. But I'm watching that story and I'm thinking, how many people are gonna have a reference of stories like that in their head that they can pass along to their children if anything ever happened. If there was a catastrophic breakdown, and I'm talking deep level stuff here. If that were to happen, how much wisdom? Sure, you can sit one on one with your kid, and you can kind of pass along as much knowledge as you can remember to do. But stories with morals in them, they were told for thousands and thousands of years, passed along from generation to generation. They were translated from language to language. I mean, look at, a lot of the old fairy tales were written in, that were written in other languages. They were written in German, they were written in, French, whatever. But they were passed along and translated to the new language because the stories had relevance. The morals in those stories had relevance. And just because we don't all live on farms and hunt for our food every day now, doesn't mean that, first off, it doesn't mean they don't have the same relevance. The morals are still the same. Hansel and Gretel, this story has now translated into "Don't take candy from strangers." It's been truncated down, but kids might not remember certain things. I mean, look, we have associative memories. I've mentioned that a couple times as well. That's why songs stick in your head. Uh, you know, Paragraph 7 from your history book doesn't stick in your head like that. A song sticks in your head. So, my brother and I have kind of talked about, if anything ever happened, trying to preserve these things. So I figured I'm going to throw this out there, and if anybody agrees, maybe start Maybe start looking into that. Start looking into those old stories because books might not be there anymore. How many people are gonna start burning books for heat because they live in some kind of populated area and the trees aren't so abundant, or the trees aren't abundant anymore because they've all been burned in the last 2 months because some knucklehead went and set fire to to the closest woodlot, whatever it is. People are going to start burning the books for heat. So basically, the knowledge will be lost pretty damn quickly if no one remembers those old stories. I made that other video about the most important thing I think anyone can put back is a copy of the Constitution. And this is kind of along that same line. It's a matter of preserving the knowledge of mankind as best you can. I mean, if you think about it, if there weren't those stories, mankind never would have taken those incremental little steps that they took to get to where we are today. So, my brother, he's been learning the guitar. Actually, we're both drummers, but he's been learning the guitar and thinking about, trying to learn some old folk music. And I've been actually considering doing the same thing. And, maybe some of us need to consider making stories about time as it is today. Because who knows, in 5 years, 10 years, something may have happened where that's not the case. Or if nothing happened, it's still, it's still a preserved memory of the time that you're living in. And you can still interject the lessons that you've learned in your life that you can pass along to your children. So, those old sayings, those old stories, think back. Maybe your grandpa told you something when you were a kid. Sat you down and told you a story. Maybe you remember your mom singing a song when you were a kid. But maybe it helps. Like I said, it's September 11th, so I might be in that mind frame. I'm remembering, you guys that aren't close to New York. I think it had less of an impact, and the impact faded a lot sooner. But if you know somebody that was there, I'm Philadelphia, man. I'm an hour and 20-minute drive from New York City, hour and 20-minute drive from where that happened. So I think maybe it impacted people in New York and closely around New York more than it did the rest of the country. I think it kind of faded out there a little faster than it did here. So not always, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, I think it did. So maybe start thinking about the stories with the morals that you'd like to pass along. Like I mentioned in that other video I made, the video response, the kid stories out there, they're not passing along the morals that you want or I want. I kind of do dabble in writing stories and stuff, so I was actually considering if I had any artistic talent myself, I'd do it. I could write the stories, but I certainly couldn't illustrate them. I draw on about the level of a 2-year-old. So, but yeah, I've considered writing some kid stories and putting them out there. Just stories that actually have our morals. The morals of the average American, real morals that we have. Not this crap that's pushed on kids where, every story that's left from before is hijacked, and all the new stories are teaching them that it's greedy to have something for yourself. So, I don't know. This is just kind of me rambling and considering preservation, considering how exactly, if we don't know those old stories, how exactly are we going to pass them on if something were to happen. I mean, just think about how many times a day do you use Google? We don't have our own internal reference libraries, most of us, anymore. Hell, I hit Google. It's got to be 100 times a day. You can anything. You don't store knowledge for yourself anymore. You're so used to having that resource at your fingertips, you can just hit Google and type in what you want and come back with something that yeah, a lot of those stories have become obsolete. You know, passing that knowledge along in that manner has kind of become obsolete in a lot of ways. But it's still a tradition that I think should be kept alive, if for no other reason than Google might not be there. You know, what happens if Google isn't there? Um, you know, a couple days ago, I think 3 days ago, Google was hit pretty hard with some virus that was out there, and it was a basic crappy denial of service attack like most of them are. But some of their servers actually went down. So it wouldn't even have to be some catastrophic thing. All it would take is one good programmer that really understood some things could wreak havoc, man. Could wreak havoc. Could really absolutely destroy Google's databases. And that would mean, sure, the information might still be out there on other websites, but how the hell are you going to find it if the search engines are taken down? Google in particular, but there's Yahoo, there's Bing, all that crap. What happened if somebody wrote one good virus? There's this big thing about cybersecurity now, and the Chinese government, or no one says openly it's the damn government, but the Chinese government's out there planting Trojan horses all through the internet, all through our internal structure systems and our power grids and shit like that. And this isn't fairy tale stuff, man. This is happening. I mean, they've been fighting this for a decade at least. Every time they find one, they try to eradicate it. They try to close the loophole in security. But the reality is, there's some people out there that really could just flip a switch and pretty much screw us. And how much knowledge have you retained? Do you even know how to use an encyclopedia? I mean, I remember how to use one because we had a set when I was a kid, but most people have no clue how to look things up in an encyclopedia. They look things up on Google, on Wikipedia. Do you know how to use a freaking card catalog at the library? I mean, it'd probably take me a half hour to remember. So, maybe just think about preserving that knowledge. Maybe, you don't have to be a genius. I'm not talking Fahrenheit 451 type stuff where you memorize a book or a chapter of something. I'm talking, some of the old folk stories. Some of the stories with morals, maybe some of the fairy tales. But remembered and told in such a way that they actually reflect our values, not the hijacked values that most of them have been converted over to. So, that's just my thoughts. This video probably sucks, and I probably lost most of you by this point. So, but there it is. Those are my thoughts, and I hope if anyone else, if it tips a bell in your head, maybe start learning some stories, man. Urban Combat Survivor, signing off.